The Energy Transition Podcast takes you directly to the cutting edge of the global energy sector's shift, with a specific focus on the critical role played by oil and gas, as well as the pathways developing around a lower carbon future. Your hosts, Leslie Beyer, Energy Workforce and Technology Council's CEO, and Dan Pickering, founder of Pickering Energy Partners, are joined by Josh Lowry, president of Upright Digital. Each episode engages industry thought leaders in an exploration of market-moving trends and topics, including new technologies, ESG, capital markets, inclusion and diversity, workforce innovation, regulatory influences, and the voice of the people. Join us as the Energy Transition Podcast looks at the state of the traditional energy and oil field service sectors, emerging technologies, and the path ahead in a world of lower carbon energy development.
Welcome to the Energy and Transition Podcast. We are coming to you live from the Fletch Azul Podcast Studio in Houston, Texas. My name is Josh Lowry with Upright Digital. I am joined with the co-host extraordinaire, Mr. Dan Pickering of Pickering Energy Partners. Hello, Dan.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I am doing very well today, thank you.
How well?
How well?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. The markets are going crazy today. These things are dated a little bit, but this is a day when the market is falling by 1,000 points. Oil's 110. So that, to me, says there's a lot going on in your world.
As an energy specialist and a guy that looks at markets, I mean, you thrive on things that are changing and perceptions that are changing. And I can't tell you that I know exactly what's happening right now, but trying to figure it out is fun. And so out of these kind of volatile markets comes opportunity.
Yep.
And so I don't know exactly what the opportunities will come from today, but I know there will be some. So it's a good time.
You know, okay, I get that. Tell me more. I need more. Like, what are you doing this summer? We're downloading this. We're doing this podcast today. I anticipate a lot of people are hitting click and listening to us for the first time. They're on the road to, Seaside right now. What's Dan Pickering doing this summer?
Yeah, so my summer is going to be burning up in Houston in June and July, and I am trying to work from somewhere in August. Yeah. But I will tell you that I have, and my wife has gotten approval to do that from her work, and so that's fabulous. But finding the spot is really hard.
Yes.
And so I have some experience with this. A couple of years ago, during the pandemic, I spent 3 weeks in Park City, and we finalized the place we were going to stay the night before. So I'm living in terror for the months of June and July.
That's fine. That's great.
That July 31st will be when we ink the spot we're going for August 1st.
Yes.
So the answer is I hope I'm going somewhere nice and cool, but I have no idea where that is.
Okay, that's going to be great. I kind of live on the edge like that as well.
I was going to say, your summer?
Well, actually, I've got a pretty fun summer. My kids are going to camp for a month this year. They're going to go up to Kanakuk in Missouri, and they're pumped about it. To them, a week and a month are the exact same amount of time. They have no idea how long they're actually going to be gone.
Yeah.
And my wife and I are going to, in fact, I just booked it this morning. We're going to Greece for 2 weeks. We're going to go over to flying into Athens. We're going to do Mykonos and the whole island system. So I immediately need to stop eating because I feel like these are going to be lifelong pictures, and I don't want to be, looking like a big fat hairy guy. Like, who's this guy? No, I want to look suave for my Greece trip. So we're doing Greece in June.
That'll be great.
Yeah,
that'll be really great. Well, we're fortunate to be joined by.
Yeah, I didn't leave you much of a transition.
Yeah,
point
you didn't.
There, did I?
You really didn't. But you're talking about Europe.
Yes.
And there's a connection with you and our podcast guest that we only found out about here in the last 24 hours. So I'm going to let you and Sean talk about it, but we're happy to be joined by Sean Kelly, who's the co-founder and CEO of Amperon. And Sean, you've got as way of introduction before you tell us anything else about you, how did you and Josh meet?
Oh man, I guess this is being recorded.
So give us the clean version.
We have a mutual really good friend in common, and he and I moved to Chicago kind of together in 2013. Brent.
Brent Phelps.
We were friends in Houston. and then went to Chicago, and each of us knew one other person, each other. And so we're like, we're best friends. Hung out every day for like 3 years. And then this guy shows up, and for the Cubs World Series, had a great time. He and I had an interaction with Bill Murray,
Yes,
which was pretty awesome, in which one of us, who's very shy here, this guy, yells over to Bill Murray and says, "Hey, if you want to take a picture with 5 dudes, I know where you can find them." And Bill Murray yells back, and this is all I needed. He goes, "It's on my bucket list." And so I read the towel of Bill Murray during the pandemic when we went on a 6-week road trip, and all of the stories in there are exactly like that. And I always think of you for that. Yeah. And I keep up with you a little bit through Brent, but when I saw that on there, I was like, this is going to be even more fun than I already expected.
Honestly, you're going to find out through this podcast that Dan is our planner, except apparently for travel. But it was really fun to figure out that we were going to be interviewing you today, because I didn't look at really what was going on. There's a lot going on.
I found out at 10:30 last night.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
The world is such a small world. And, meeting you in Chicago through Brent Phelps, who's actually the guy who introduced me to my wife. So I'm going to Brent's wedding later this summer.
I'm going to try my best.
You got to do
September,
it. In Lake Como. But
you just invited 10,000 people
Brent's
to crash
a cool guy.
the wedding.
Brent's a cool guy. I don't think he's going to really care.
Yeah, as long as he's not having to pick up the tab for everybody to crash Lake Como.
Yeah, cash bar.
Cash bar for sure.
I remember going to that office in Chicago and just think it was the coolest office I'd ever been
Unbelievable.
in. It was awesome.
That's the like Empire and Transformers and a bunch of stuff. It was always shut down for like movies. And so the TV show Empire, even though it's based in New York, that is the office building.
Really?
Beautiful building
is,
on
right
the
on the
river.
water. Yeah.
I think it was 353 North Clark. It was just awesome. And just iconic Chicago River building. So it was a fun place to work.
Well, this is very similar, the podcast studio you're in, to
100%.
Yeah, it feels exactly like Empire here. Have you ever been on a podcast before?
I have been on a couple podcasts.
You have. How are those?
Not as good as this.
Okay, that's all I was looking for.
Man, he is an experienced
he's a
podcast
pro.
guest. Yes, always butter up the commentators. So
I need nice questions. So
we're gonna lob softball after softball. But the easy first softball is, just tell us a little bit about you. We know you've lived in Chicago, but I think you're a Houston-born. Take us from the early days of Sean Kelly.
Yeah, so I grew up in Sugar Land. One little thing I don't tell many people: I was born in Sharpstown, and so it was big enough for either me or Paul Wall, and Paul Wall was the one who got Sharpstown. Yeah. So I had to move to the burbs in kindergarten, and so grew up there. Went to Texas A&M, huge A&M fan. Was president of the New York A&M club. Really big into networking, and that's kind of where the whole networking like a crazy person thing started. I worked on a trade floor in high school, installing InRun Online. For those of us who know me well, I'm very non-technical.
Okay.
So me installing InRun Online.
This was the worst job you've ever had, it sounds like.
Oh, it was a blast. I just hung out with the traders, and the IT department hated me, and the traders loved me, and because I just wanted to hang out with them.
Yeah, the technical guys like, he's not doing anything.
They're like, he can't do anything. And the trader's like, this guy is awesome. So sure enough, fast forward, took a really great energy trading class at A&M with Dr. Hollerman, who now I'm on the board of the TRIP program, Trading Risk Investing program at Texas A&M. The best place to find talent coming out. They have to do 3 internships. My intern my intern now is leaving for Trailstone. My other one left for EDF and ProMan. Other one went to NG. Just great companies on the board, and they come out 5 years, master's degree, and 3 legitimate internships. And so they come out like about a third-year analyst, which is awesome. And so went to A&M, decided I want out of Houston. Let's try something else. This is 2005. Was a finance major. Went to Dallas. Worked at Tenaska. Great place to learn the grid. But
so you were trading electricity?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was scheduling ERCOT, the Texas market. So scheduled that market. Realized that if I'm going to be an energy trader, I should probably just go home. All the energy traders live in Houston, and pay was better. And so I was there for a little under a year and came back to Houston, worked at an awesome company called Eagle Energy Partners, founded by Chuck Watson and kind of a Dynegy spinoff. Cody Moore was my boss. Didn't realize then, just because startup culture is not, I didn't really know what a startup was, but then I realized that being 23 and the 9th person on the power desk and the 37th employee overall was a startup. And then we got bought by Lehman Brothers, and Lehman valued the office so well, they forgot to sell us to Barclays. So literally, transaction goes through Lehman in September of 08, we think we're going to Barclays. I have 3 paychecks from Barclays and an email address, and then we find out they forgot about the little like Houston office. So that was interesting.
So it was not legally transferred.
It was not legally transferred.
Wow. Okay.
They remembered the big building next to the M&M factory in Manhattan.
What a mess.
But they totally forgot about us. So Chuck swoops in and sells us last minute to EDF Trading out of London.
Okay.
So Electricité de France. And so, yeah, it was really cool shop. Got to do the integration of 9 Mile and Ginna, which are 2 nuclear plants in New York ISO. So New York ISO, just the entire power grid, like Texas, all of New York just kind of operates on its own. So got to do that. Realized that I loved the business development, kind of building something more than I even did the trading side. And then got to, after that, kind of moved to Chicago to help set up E.ON, a big German utilities trade floor. Brent was my first hire. My now meteorologist.
But this is happening when you're 30.
This is 30. I was at Eagle, Lehman, EDF for like 5-6 years.
So something tells me that Sean was doing a pretty good job if he's starting trading desks for big German utilities at age 30. So anyway,
it was another guy like was the managing director. I was the first trader in, and they were like, the managing director had been in Switzerland. There were 4 of us. One of them had been in Germany. I like to network. All my friends are traders, for better or for worse. And so just wanted to kind of bring my people in. And so it was just a really good time getting to kind of set up, picked which chairs, had 10 chairs in there, sat in a different one every 30 minutes, set up the phone systems, beautiful building we discussed. Yeah. It was fun. Moved to Chicago, didn't know anybody but Brent. But I'm very big on like family and history, and so my family actually came to Chicago from Ireland around 1910. So love that. And so it was just a really
So it's really Sean O'Kelly.
Cool. Then. Probably. Yeah. Sean Patrick Kelly is pretty good though.
Oh yeah,
so,
you've hung on.
Yeah. So no, parents gave me the joys of being firstborn. You get the best name.
Yeah.
So
But I still haven't heard the word Amperon yet. So
so was in Chicago trading. Was at the Chicago Board of Trade. Awesome place to close out a trading career. So here's the fun part. I stopped trading at just a small prop shop. Walked myself out. Left trading on my own accord. March 31st, 2016. And so natural gas hit $1.61 kind of the first time in my career, and I'd been trading 11 years, and that was it. So April 1st, I flew to New York and had a date with this girl who is now my wife. And so when you talk about having a clear chapter cut,
wow,
you literally March 31st, and I think we rolled out at 3 p.m., 2 p.m., something like that. Everything after that, so
life.
That's probably the only way I'm married is because she never knew me as a trader.
Yeah.
And so, and that's trader with a D. So, went there, met her, and just New York is such a vibrant place. It's amazing. Everyone is it's like buzzword central, and so everyone is disrupting and data science and machine learning and co-founder and all this. And I was like, this is interesting. Everything here is barrels and pipelines and
everything here in Houston.
And private equity, and this is interesting. So just kind of went there, and the place is just dripping with tech. New York is, and so it's really, really cool place to be. And so I was like, hey, all I know how to do is energy. I had a consulting company that I had started at the time called Bridge Power Consulting, and started that with a buddy. And what we did there is went around and helped large commercial businesses with their electricity supply, a little bit of solar, a little bit of LED, stuff like that. And that's what I like when I quit trading. That was to work on Bridge.
Mm-hmm. So Bridge, you would basically help the customers manage their power.
Exactly. So like in Houston, Two Riverway, so was a client.
Okay.
So helped manage their building, like huge building in Houston. I mean, it was great. Had 30 grocery stores throughout Manhattan and Long Island. Had like Mount Sinai and Holy Cross Hospital in Chicago. So yeah, they were basically like, hey, we've got our business to run here, and electricity is the most, like, one of our biggest spends.
Yeah.
And so that's what helped me understand. Just so you have in 14 states in the US, you've got deregulated electricity, right? So you are allowed to choose your electricity provider. All of us in Texas don't know another way, because if you don't have an electricity provider here, you don't have power. In the rest of the 49 states, if you do not have an electricity provider, you fall back on the utility.
It's a default, yeah.
So you've got, like, in New York, Con Edison does a great job with their brand everywhere. You've got, like, in Chicago, it's like Exelon or like ComEd. You've got these big monster utilities, so most people just go with the, like, set it and forget it. In 14 states, which is basically the kind of, we'll call it like upper quartile, like of the Northeast, kind of the mid-Atlantic, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Maryland, those states, you can choose. And so I was helping people choose. So they would go in, and the thing people don't understand, everybody's different. And so you can't just plug and play the same exact electricity provider for everyone. Your home looks different if the three of us are sitting here. If one of us has an EV, one of us has a battery, and one of us has rooftop solar, and our houses live next to each other, they have nothing in common at all.
In terms of power consumption.
Yeah, in terms of power consumption. So that's what I was helping these building owners understand. And that really kind of helped me just understand that end user, which I think really has gone a long way to what I'm doing now.
It wasn't just electricity, right? It was gas too, couldn't you?
A little bit of gas, yeah.
I remember some of that in Chicago.
Yeah, we did some gas as well.
Yeah. Manufacturing plants.
Yeah, the big thing, yeah, the gas for manufacturing is huge. The thing is that on the gas side, there's not as much technology heading there, and this is why, for the Amperon purposes, we focus on electricity. But
yeah, we finally
we're
heard
at 15
Amperon,
minutes. Now we know the name here. We're good.
So yeah, so
we have no rules, by the way. This is fantastic.
But yeah, so with so I understood the building owner, and I understood the markets very well. I ran power plants for, of those 11 years, 7 of them. And so that's kind of how my view of the grid. And so while in New York with all these tech people, I thought, what if we took all the tech people who are annoying us by selling us advertising at Google and Facebook and made them come work on this? This is like, Abe and I met in spring of 2017. Abe Stanway is my co-founder. So he and I, like, we're in it to win it together. I'm CEO, he's CTO. And he is, like, one of the most talented engineers, or actually the most talented engineer I've come across. To just build anything. He was young in his career when we met. We both volunteered at New York Energy Week. And so New York Energy Week was interesting. And everyone was kind of talking about the forward-looking stuff, very big on renewables, very big on, net zero, things of that nature.
This is 2017.
Yeah, 2017. They just started talking to it. Like, met Jigger Shaw there, who's now with the Department of Energy and just kind of one of the, like, OGs in this space. He spoke. Number of people were there, and so Abe and I both volunteered. It was like $2,000 a ticket, or sweat equity. So it was all about the sweat equity, and I knew I would get better exposure as well then. So so we met then, and just kind of, we hit it off, and we have almost nothing in common. We have completely opposite and completely complementary skill sets. So his joke that he always says is, I'll build it if you can sell it. And so that's what we've seen.
It's good teamwork.
And people at first were like, two co-founders who don't know each other, two co-founders who haven't been like best friends forever, and like, how is this gonna work? Y'all don't have like, there's not any overlap. And then all our early investors are like, this is one of the best teams we've seen. We've never seen just like stone cold operators like that, because we both had taken so many different things but listened to the other person's experiences, that we were like a multitude of people, though there were two of us. So it was really cool. We went back and forth kind of that April till about September, just having lunch, coffee, lots of phone calls, lots of like crazy, I've got a great idea. And you're like, it's midnight. All right, it's whatever. And so with that, that's how we came up with the idea of Amperon. And so, just I guess quick, what Amperon is,
what was
we
the
do
vision, or?
We do electricity demand forecasting. Okay. So we provide a 15-day forecast, and we provide a 5-year forecast on a per meter basis.
Per meter, not meter unit of measurement, meter.
Yeah, electricity meter, smart meter, ideally.
Yeah.
But some.
Wait,
old,
so
old
let me hear
meters.
that. So 2 weeks or 5 years?
So we have exactly. So we have the weather models run 360 hours, which is 15 days. So we have one that takes in real life weather. If I had 5-year weather, we would all be retired. And so of 5-year actual weather. But 15 days is still wrong most of the time, but you have weather models. So you've got a short-term model, the HRRR, which runs every single hour, but it only runs, I think that one runs 36. Then you have like the NAM that runs 72 hours, and then you have the longer 15-day, the GFS and the Euro, and so those run like every 6 hours. So we're always getting better weather, because when you're
let's stop a little bit, because this is a component that goes into what you do, but the vision here. Come back to the vision, which was
absolutely
electricity demand.
He asked why the two forecasts.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
And I was immediately lost. It's like, I got to have more information before we can go that deep.
So we realized that electricity demand it's hard and getting more difficult
to forecast.
Okay. And the reason why is because of the energy transition. And so as we have this energy transition, first off, we've got one thing for forecasting, that's smart meters. So back in the day,
that gives us more information.
So back in the day, you had the dog chasing the meter reader, like they came when they came. Great. Smart meter gives us every 15-minute data point, and we get it through the ISO on like a 3-day lag in the best case.
So publicly available data to you from all these meters.
Not publicly available. Publicly available if I have a contract with someone who has the right to their meter.
Okay.
Someone being
your customer.
Yeah, being a retail energy supplier.
Okay.
Or utility or municipality.
Okay.
Someone who already has the right. Whoever keeps your lights on, they're allowed to help you out and help you like make better choices about your electricity. And so I go in on their behalf and do this for them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that was the vision.
That's the vision, because the thing is that we look at it and I mean, you've got some things that are here. So I read the system adequacy resource report for the Texas market last night, and
there you go. I mean,
and
he's living his business,
Living his best life here.
Hey,
yeah.
you got to have something to go to
I
sleep
read the
to.
latest John Grisham novel. He's reading the system adequacy report for Texas.
So all I'm going to say from this is
sap.
in 2021, there was 100 megawatts of rooftop solar in Texas.
Okay.
This year, 600. We saw a 6x. Yeah. 6x jump year over year. That's the biggest thing that jumped out to me. But does that make demand harder if you stuck solar on your house? Why do you think everyone jumped between 21 and 22?
Because of Uri.
Exactly. Texans are stubborn. We want to do our own thing. And so if you put rooftop solar on, you have more control over what you're doing. And so that's why.
So the big power outage.
Yeah. Nobody ever wants to feel like that again.
We just bought a generator because of that.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Generac is like completely backed up and sold out. My uncle got one through like a guy.
A friend of a cousin. We got one in 6 weeks, and I feel like we are winning the lottery
You
on it.
stole it.
Seriously.
Like, yeah. You literally, they're going for, 4X. Texans were stubborn. I know everyone always says, like, this is the state that, like, we're going to leave the union, and I don't think we actually can. But but when you have that feeling, I had a pregnant wife at the time.
Oh, man.
And, like, we were 7 months pregnant and, like, 6-7 months pregnant. And thankfully, she grew up in cold weather, and so she was fine. But we went and stayed with a friend because it was, we didn't have power for about 48 hours. And nobody wants to feel like that again. So people have Generacs and batteries and other things of that nature. And then people have solar. And then also people have, I had friends who were like posting on like Twitter and LinkedIn about how they lived in their Tesla during this because they could like actually like stay warm and stuff like that. And so, yeah. So, this whole thing has made demand harder. And so that's why we decided harder to forecast. Yes. And so that's why we started Amperon.
So you mentioned along the way data scientists.
Yeah.
And demand forecast and weather. So you've got a secret sauce that ties all those together?
Well, you also mentioned a meteorologist too.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I just want to make sure that.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. I kind of I thought about it the other day and the way we've hired. So we just raised our Series A led by HSBC, the big bank, their climate fund. Had some great people involved with that. And we're out hiring as fast as we can. And so we're at 21 now, 22. And of that, half of the team is data driven, and then half of the team is kind of like ops. And again, Abe and I kind of split it in half. Like, he manages all the data side. I manage the sales and commercial side. But I think what's interesting is we kind of put together a hedge fund that sells software, which is super interesting. We have the top flight talent. We pay top dollar to get these data scientists and data engineers that would work at these top flight places. Our head of data science worked at DRW, which is a top hedge fund in Chicago. And before that was at Microsoft Research.
Where are these people based out of?
All over.
Okay.
More in Houston than anywhere else. So 8 of the 22 are in Houston. And then we're kind of scattered all over. And so before the pandemic happened, we were already fully remote. So it helped. None of our competition was. So we were like, another day. And they were all like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to log in, like anything like that. And so it wound up being a huge advantage to us, the pandemic, because we were already fully remote. And that was just because our first data scientist was overseas. And AngelList is a phenomenal place to hire off of. It is the top tech talent. And it's kind of like this, it's just unbelievable. But all the talent is on AngelList because it's like startup tech and a great place to recruit from.
Yeah. So Sean, who buys a electricity demand forecast?
Yeah. So traders.
What do people use it for?
Yeah. So traders buy our grid scale forecast. So we have all public data, like us versus Texas, us versus New York, us versus New England, us versus Alberta. And so it's all public data, but we're better at slicing it. And
that's where the data scientists
That's where the data science comes in. We have a competitor who spends no money on weather. I have 6 weather vendors and a meteorologist. The biggest input into figuring out what demand is going to do is weather. So we want to spend as much as possible, and weather's getting harder and harder. Climate change is nuts because we moved back to Houston from New York in the fall of 2019. September 2019, hottest September on record. What are we right here in the middle of? Hottest May on record. Like literally every 5 minutes, it's the hottest, it's the most, it's never happened, it will never happen again. Uri, 1 in a 100-year event. Summer 2011, 1 in a 100-year event. You don't have to be good at math to understand that if you keep having every 4 months a 1 in a 100-year event, something is up, right? And so that makes us more valuable. Like you said it very well at the intro. Markets are crazy, there's opportunity. And when you are a risk software, it's been a great time to be at Amperon.
Okay. So you sell this to traders. Are you still doing are you helping businesses with their electricity demand like you were at Bridgepoint? You don't do that
Yeah,
anymore.
I sold that company back in 2019.
Okay.
So
This is all
it's
electricity
all
demand.
so no B2C. I don't touch any of the clients. But so I was at lunch right before this with a client, and they have, I don't know, probably 70,000 meters. Electricity meters across Texas, residential. They have a really unique book. They have about 15,000 of those are residential solar. So we are about 3 times better than our competition at predicting residential solar electricity output. It is really hard because rooftop solar at your home is behind the meter. If it's behind the meter, it's invisible. I only know what the meter does. So did Dan leave and go out of town, or does he just have rooftop solar? We got to figure this out. So that's where we came in, and they are extremely happy with how we figured it out.
And why? What are they using your insights for?
So they have a forecast of the 70 or so thousand meters, and we are telling them what to buy every single hour.
Because they've got to go out and buy power.
Yep.
And if
For their
they
clients.
can anticipate better, they can plan better,
Yep.
which means they can be cheaper
Yeah.
and make more money.
Exactly. And they're very forward thinking. So I actually switched my personal electricity contract to them 2 weeks ago and wanted to just see what the hype was about.
That seems like a high percentage of solar for the amount. It's over 10% of their. Yeah. I mean, that's high.
Yeah. They've kind of cornered the market on this. But the thing is they only want to work with us because we want to deal with all the craziness. Like it's not run of the mill. It's not Microsoft Excel anymore. It's not, you can't just figure out the way you've been forecasting your whole career doesn't work anymore. You have to go hire, first off, the data engineer from a data integrity standpoint. That's the biggest thing. If you have a great genius model that your data scientist built and garbage inputs, you have garbage outputs. So that's why we have 6 weather vendors. Not everyone's infallible. Actually, no one's infallible. So if you have 6 of them, the odds of all 6 screwing up simultaneously are very low. The odds of one screwing up, not bad. So that's why we sit there and spend so much money on weather. That's why we have this data science team that's a bunch of PhDs that have published in like the International Conference on Machine Learning. These are not just like, they're not just like, hey, I took a couple Excel classes. What they're doing is everything's in Python. It is all way over my
I'm just going to throw this out there. I guess it's because I used to live with Brent, our mutual friend, and I'm listening to you talk about, and to Dan's question, what do they do with that information? If you don't, this is to the audience, if you don't know what an energy trader is, Google it, do a little research on it, because it's going to blow your mind that there's people behind the scenes doing what he's talking about doing, and that's how power is traded. But that doesn't really explain it very well, and I don't want to spend too much of your time on that.
No, for sure.
But it's a remarkable thing that's going on behind the scenes that nobody has any idea it's happening.
Yeah, you have to match up demand with supply, right? And so somebody has a power plant, somebody has some form of generation, and somebody has a need, and they have to match the two. And that's what the independent system operator's job is to do, match them together. But yeah, with that, we solve half the equation. We solve the demand side. The supply side is very hard. If you run your plant when you want to, this is how it used to work back in the day. Those are easy to understand. I've run a lot of natural gas plants. They are on when I push the button. If they're cold in 4 hours, if they're hot in an hour, that's great. Wind, it is what it is. Solar, way more predictable than wind. But wind is the biggest. There's, I think, 35,000 megawatts of wind in Texas now. And just for instance, how big 35,000 is. So it's crazy hot right now. We're in the middle of May, and we set a record again. I love records everywhere. 70,000 megawatt peak, right around there. So wind is theoretically half the grid, but wind shows up when wind feels like it. And there's no way to hedge that. There's really no way, there's not even good weather variables to understand what that is. And so knowing your demand is even more important because you don't know when your supply is going to be there. So then you can make sure you're actually hedged day ahead, and by hedged, just offsetting your risk, saying, hey, I great, sold Josh house a contract for a year. I'm going to go buy the equivalent of your house. Say, okay, perfect, and then you're hedged. So what we're trying to do is get our clients to hedge. So traders are a small portion. Retail energy providers are the bigger portion. So deregulated states, that's where we deal with. That's where we deal with the retail providers. So through that, we have several million meters under management. So we go to a client and say, like the client I had lunch with, how many meters do you have? 70,000. I'm taking everything. It's not take the residential, take the whole book. And so we take all of that, and then we give them that forecast on a 15-day basis.
You take it. You take the information.
We take the
their
information.
Smart meter data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and we get that from the market.
Okay.
So we act on their behalf.
Right.
So we'll have like read-only access, get the data, and lo and behold, here's your forecast.
Big data. That's incredible.
So
It's nuts.
You're the secret sauce for them to understand all the information. Other people can't get that information because you're working on.
They have to sign that same client that I have.
Yeah.
And clients have multiple forecasts, and it's fine. So there's no IP per se. Like there's no
exclusivity is what you're saying.
Yeah, there's no exclusivity. There's awesome companies like our friend and actually now investor Kieran, the CEO of Arcadia. Arcadia has gone out and acquired like hundreds of thousands of meters and just came out with an awesome like $1.5 billion valuation. He got every person to sign on the individual line. This week we had a great week, and so I got like 8 people to sign on the line and acquired some hundreds of thousands of meters in 2 weeks. So it's a little bit different of a sales cycle.
You're saying customers, retail energy providers that are signing you up.
So I signed like 8 of them and got like hundreds of thousands of meters.
Yeah.
And he spent his whole career getting like the same number, but he signed everyone up individually.
Right.
All of us, Arcadia is an amazing company, and all of us can be Arcadia members, but each of us has to sign up on their own.
Yeah.
Which is, B2C blows my mind. I have so much respect for them because I don't understand the customer acquisition on that standpoint. Mm-hmm. I like having like the high end conversation of like, hey, I used to trade. This is why this works. And they're like, totally understand. And so they're like, we have the smartest tech person in energy and a really well networked like former trader. And then we have all these crazy data scientists. And then we have a meteorologist and 6 weather vendors.
Just makes sense.
Yeah, it's like it's the perfect combination that's really hard to put together. Yeah. So yeah, that's
and when you sign up the retail energy provider, does having the more clients and meters you have, the more the better your model gets, I assume?
Yeah.
So there's some scale here that
scale.
As you get more customers, the next customer wants to be a customer more aggressively because it's going to be better than hiring somebody that doesn't have that scale.
Yep, exactly.
Interesting.
And that's where I don't that's where so much appreciation to the people who took an early chance on us. So we went live in the Texas market. I've seen people do a lot in like the startup land. We've raised 3 rounds of venture. So with that, I've seen a lot of people go and be like, we've got a great idea. We're going to sell to utilities. And I'm like, oh, man, God bless you. Like, good luck.
Your beard will be long before it's done.
Yeah, 2-year sales cycle. Like, and so people are like, well, how'd you get somebody like who'd you go to? Who's your first client? And I'm like, buddy I met sophomore year gym class in high school. Like, happened to be like run a small rep in Texas, gave us all his data, super thorough, and couldn't have done it without him. Like, another buddy that I worked real-time trading with back at Eagle Energy Partners was like number 2 guy at a shop. He was around a campfire at our buddy's ranch, and he's like, I always thought you were smart and like kind of like, you know, like had bigger things than what we were doing, and I'm totally down. Like, you can have all our data. And I was like, heck yeah, sweet.
Great.
So we had think between the two, about like 50,000 meters. So one had like 15, one had like 30. And
where are you today?
A few million.
Okay. A lot of growth.
A lot of growth. Yeah, we've got about 50 clients.
Yeah.
So from 2 pilots in 2018. So
nice.
It's been really cool. It's been really cool and just really fun to tell your story. And I pay attention to every client. I get in trouble from my investors for getting way too many text messages from clients. Apparently, HubSpot's a much better way to track your communication than than my cell phone.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just been awesome, and it's great. I guess when people who you worked with prior are like, we're in, and they're like, that's one of the coolest feelings. Brent was in our press release, so I can say he's a client. He uses our meteorologist. We sell our meteorologist as a service. And when you have somebody that like, dude, he rips everything to shreds. He is the most thorough person out there. No, Brent.
Your client, yeah.
He's a hard sell. So when you're like, you have to be on point on this stuff because it's like one of your good friends. You literally like, as a vendor, you obviously want to let your customers, like, you don't want to let your customers down, right? But when it's your boys, like,
yeah,
it's another level, you know? Like, this is his livelihood, my livelihood. So it's taken on that scale. No, it's like added pressure. Like, you literally stay up at night. You literally go through and like check their forecast, check how you're doing against this. But they also will tell you thank you. And that's when you're like, okay, this is really cool. And then I think the other thing that's like one of the things I did not realize to be so flattering is when people that you're friends with leave a really good job to come work for you. And so that's like one of the coolest feelings. Our Met from Eon, Dr. Shipham, Mark's great. And he's like, yeah, I'm turning down jobs to like come hang out with you. I was like, I don't really have much money. So he's like, this sounds like fun. We'll give it a shot.
We'll figure it out, yeah.
He was the second employee. And he's been, I guess he started like end of 2018.
Okay.
And so, and it was like just kind of like helping us along the way. We all text each other, like the Brent and he and I are all good friends. But yeah, when people are like, yeah, I'll come work for you, you're like, what? So that's one of the things I think that people don't understand when starting a company is that like right now I'm responsible for like 22 families and by proxy, like hundreds, if not thousands, since we are the risk platform. So that's one of the things that's extremely like humbling and makes you just, work till 12:30 and get up at 4. So yeah.
So you got 50 clients, 2 million meters. Where 14 states are deregulated. Are you across all those states or?
Yeah. So we started in Texas end of 2018. Then in 2020, we did something really, really wise. We gutted everything and built a repeatable process. And so we decided that we want you, no matter where you are in the entire world, to have the exact same Amperon platform. And so if you are in New York, in New England, and PJM is the biggest, it's kind of like Chicago across Ohio, Pennsylvania, DC. It originally stood for Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland, and it is way more than that now. And then you have MISO, which I always say is the Louisiana Purchase.
Okay.
And then you have Texas, and then we have Alberta. And then one of our really fun clients that we published with before is AMO, the Australian Energy Market Operator.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we are actually the operational forecast for all of Australia. And Australia is a super interesting market. They have a higher price cap than the Texas market, even with the translation to the dollar. I think it's like 15,000 AUD, which is around like 9,000 US. I could be wrong on that. They have 40% rooftop solar. I'm not wrong on that. And then they have like the Tesla battery. And so it is a crazy,
market to forecast.
Crazy market to forecast electricity demand.
Yep.
Just because of all the rooftop solar. So we have that as well. And then we are probably going to enter Europe before the end of the year. So I am end of June, early July, going to be going and doing a European roadshow. A couple of our clients that are European based but we work with here in the States. The energy markets have never been wilder than they are in Europe right now. it's a great time to walk in with no battle scars and say we're here to help. And we also do want to help. That's part of the reason that the company has expanded so quickly, is because we took a step back when Uri happened, which we all lived through.
Winter Storm Uri here in Texas.
Yeah, Winter Storm Uri, when we had the crazy freeze. When we had the crazy freeze in February, Valentine's weekend of 2021. And so with that, we took a step back. We put out our weather forecast. We put out our weather forecast for free to everyone, the 1,000-something people we had in our like database. We sent it to everybody that was in Texas.
Before it happened?
Yeah. We knew it. My Met called it on February 3rd. And so I had a client call me and say, cleared $9,000 per megawatt hour.
Price did.
For like days. And our usual is like 50.
Okay.
So $50 per megawatt hour is like 5 cents.
A kilowatt
hour for those of us at home. Doesn't include transmission, but the energy portion, 5 cents. Then the 9,000, $9 a kilowatt hour. I'm locked in right now at a really high rate because I just had to switch, like 14 cents. So I mean, it cleared $9, and you're selling 14 cent power. So our meteorologist called it around February 3rd in his morning newsletter. We started sending it out to our clients, being like, "It's going down." And
it's going down, meaning it's happening.
It's
not
happening.
Price is going down.
No. Yeah.
Crazy things are happening.
Crazy things are about to happen.
Yep.
Crazy things did happen. And then we took a step back. We built a repeatable process around settlements, and we actually wound up doing so much free consulting. We sat down with boards of publicly traded companies. Abe, who had been doing energy for 3 years at that time, was telling C-suite executives exactly what happened and why, because he had read every single tariff in the entire market. And we sat down and did that, and that's what kind of made us big, because everyone just being thoughtful.
How many days before did you guys call it?
10 days.
10 days before this.
Yeah. 10 to 12, depending on how you look at it. So if the 13th is when the wheels started coming off of February, and we called it on February 3rd, and then February 15th, there were no more wheels. It was all over, blacked out, just done. It went out. Power went out at 2 a.m. on the 15th, at 2 a.m. in the morning.
I mean, that seems incredible to me, to call something.
And we did it publicly too.
Yeah.
So we did it, like, we're blasting it out on LinkedIn, telling everyone, like, bankruptcy is bad for everyone. I don't care if they're a client or not. I had 7 contracts in front of people who are no longer companies. And that's hard to see. I had to sit there and talk with people. I mean, I started this company myself, and I had to sit and talk with people who started their company themselves. And y'all have started, this is your baby, right? And so we had to sit there and like talk them through it, try to do anything we could to help them. They had their investors calling, they had everything. And so we just took Steve, who's our front end engineer. He goes, it's not that we didn't get any work done for a month. He goes, it's that we spent a month on marketing. And I was like, we did spend a month on marketing. And so we went out there, we had a bunch of posts. They're still on our website. So you can go to amperon.co. Website has not been updated in a while, but the articles are new. And so you can go back and see what we wrote. Big on LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn. Abe's big on Twitter. And so you can go back and see all the stuff that we wrote, that we published. And so that was, I think, the biggest thing, is that we didn't worry about money. We didn't worry about trying to shake everybody down for $5,000. We just went and did a whole bunch of just being thoughtful. And I mean, you pay it forward, and sometimes it hits.
And now you have 50 clients and a great reputation.
Yeah, so it's
a great story.
Yeah, it's something. The reason I tell that story is because I feel every business owner, if you worry about the bottom line only and aren't thoughtful, you don't know what's going to happen. If you're thoughtful, a lot of times it's not 100%. Nothing is. Bottom line will take care of itself.
Yeah. So let's with the Uri as an example. So you had 10 days notice that things were going to get nuts. I assume your trading clients that listened to you made a lot of money. Let's assume that happened.
We'll assume that happened.
Yeah. So it begs the question a little bit. You create edges, right? Your information is better, and that creates edge. So why not trade? You got a trading background. Why not be a trader as opposed to a providing information guy?
I feel like I'm back in a VC pitch. They ask me this every time.
Yeah.
No, I think that, well, let's take the other day, for example. The Texas market had a really, really rough Friday. This happened to be Friday the 13th. And market cleared around $775 per megawatt. It was predicted to clear, predicted as in trading prior, about $125.
Okay. So it was 5 times higher.
Yeah, like you and I were talking about on the way in, like or with like the volatility, like the electricity volatility is just, I mean, crypto, like hold my beer, like nothing. And so you look at this, and so what happened? So 6 power plants came offline, 2,900 megawatts.
Okay.
Wind was predicted to be low. It was low. But prices spiked, and people did what they could. But when you lose 6 power plants, a couple of them were asked by ERCOT to come back early and had planned outages, per Bloomberg in an article that Noreen Malik wrote. And so I was like, okay. So I mean, it wasn't necessarily like, hey, natural gas is bad. You just can't push machines to their limit. You can't tell when to show up. It just kind of happened. It was a perfect storm. But if you were long, you made 5x. So that's just, all of those components. Demand, ERCOT had a good demand forecast. I had a good demand forecast. The actuals came in right at where it was. Nothing to see here. So there was nothing. It was literally a non-event. There was a time a couple months ago.
Hold on. So what you're saying is price did something different than what a demand model alone would have suggested.
Exactly.
And you're using this as an example of why trading is hard.
Yes, exactly. Trading is hard because all of those factors are not things that Amperon could have helped you with.
Yeah.
There's nothing I tell you about wind. There's nothing I tell you about plants tripping. I tell you about demand. ERCOT did a great job telling demand. I hope that all my clients were hedged.
Yeah.
And if so, they bought their power in the day ahead market. So at 10 a.m. today, you get to tell them what I want to do tomorrow. And then you clear that power and you're off the hook as long as your forecast is good. That's where most of our clients sit. Most of our clients being the retail energy providers and the municipalities and cooperatives, which are just cities, towns that provide their power for their constituents. They are supposed to be risk averse. They're supposed to be hedged. So they would go into the day ahead market, buy that power, set it and forget it. And so they should not have been affected by that $775. They should have been buying it $125 and lived to see another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you were not hedged correctly, that's where you have the problem.
Yeah.
So
there's
just a lot of variables that go into trading, and it's better to be the
you're selling
vendor.
groceries to gold miners.
Exactly.
So your statement made me about having the correct demand forecast. So I'm confident in a data-driven business, you track your accuracy. And so, and this goes to, we're going to call you one of the smartest firms figuring out demand. And everybody says the weatherman always gets it wrong. How accurate are your demand forecasts? Are you 63% right? Are you 93% right? What's it wind up being?
Yeah, so the batting average equivalent is MAPE. So it's called mean absolute percent error.
Okay.
So what's your error? So
so that's the metric to see how good you are.
That's what everyone, like all the supply team, that's what they kind of quote.
Yep.
And so with that, we're around 20% better than like the Texas market operator. We're better by about 50% than New York. And then again, back to the repeatable process. So we did a first run at California. California launches next week. So by the time you hear this, we'll be getting live in California. And so we did it first run. Data scientists stuck the model on top, didn't do any fitting, didn't do anything. We get the weather the same way, we get the points the same way, everything's identical. First take, we had a 2.1% mean absolute percent error, and California grid operator has 3%. So first take, 30% better. So that's what we're able to track. That's what we track internally. The other thing too that I did not realize until recently, we take the actual MAPE. We do not take the weather adjusted MAPE. So our competition, I didn't realize, has been quoting weather adjusted the whole time.
Which means they said if
the weather was perfect.
Yeah.
How wrong are we?
Perfectly forecasted, which we know it's not.
I was like, that would be lovely.
Yeah.
If I had perfect weather, again, retired from my trading career. And so we quote MAPE as what we told you the last model run. Our models update every hour. The last model run before the market closed for what you're allowed to buy the next day. That's what we tell you it is. Our competition are quoting the same numbers that we have. So we'll be like, hey, for a residential book, we're at 4%. And then our competition will say for a residential book, we're like 3 to 4%. I was like, that's not possible. And then I found out that it was weather adjusted. I was like, well, our weather adjusted is like 1. So weather's the hard part here.
Yeah.
So
let's take a step back. You talked about the complexity of the power grid, and it's getting more complex because of the intermittent sources we're putting on. And so put your crystal ball hat on. Let's look back. How much more complex is it than it was 5 or 8 years ago? And what's it going to look like in 5 years from now?
Good question. It's 10x more complex
today than it
was like 8 years ago.
Okay.
10 years ago. I joked that my career essentially started in 2005. And so I joked that for the first 10 years, the only thing that changed is that hurricanes went from being bullish to bearish natural gas. It's the only thing that changed in the first 10 years. And so when it first started, hurricanes came in, we were just drilling in the Gulf, natural gas shot through the roof.
Spiked, yeah.
Then it happened again later on, and we're fracking, and we have new technology, and then all that means is there's less demand, and so natural gas goes down. That's what I feel like changed in the first 10 years that I was doing this. And then in the last, since Amperon started in end of 2017.
5 years, 4 years.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Everything changed. What do we say with the solar numbers a minute ago? 100 megawatts to 600 megawatts? Are you kidding? So if you extrapolate that, do we really think it's going to be 3,600? Probably not next year. But is it going to be 1,500? I'd put good money on 1,500 because, you've got all these companies out there like the Synovas of the world just putting up rooftops everywhere. Tesla rooftop looks awesome. I watched one be installed out in California. And so, electric vehicles. Who moved down the road again? Oh, yeah, Tesla. Are there going to be more electric vehicles? The batteries are getting longer. That's my holdup in not getting one is I need to be able to make it to Dallas in one stop.
Oh, he obviously hasn't listened to our first podcast together, has he?
I know.
No.
We've addressed this, but it's no big deal. You can go back.
Jeez.
You can make it, by the way. There are more EVs coming.
I know.
Yeah.
Not without a charge, but yeah.
They're getting better now. But I'm saying they're getting there. When it first started, the first one was the range was so short, and now you're you have the ability to keep going. But I'll have to listen to that.
So if things are going to get more complex, and is it fair for me to equate complexity with volatility?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so if, as a consumer, as a user of power, turn on our lights, and I'm sure as the government or the independent system operator, you don't want more complexity and volatility, you want less, right? Don't you? Because, you want it boring. You don't want massive price spikes. You just want consistency, I would assume. And I know the trader in you says, volatility is great. I get to do stuff. But if, as a consumer, don't I want it to just be boring? And my question here, Sean, is how do we decomplexify? That's not even a word, but how do you make it less complex and less volatile? What magic switch would you turn? What would you do?
So, it's getting more complex because of technology. It's getting more complex because of renewables.
Yes.
And so it's great because you're having all these really, really inexpensive hours. It's really nice when it's solar's, like when it's bright as can be. And it's like, please get back to 80 degrees. And so it's great. And then like wind, when it's wind, like it's free power. It's great. Electric vehicles, again, you're dealing with, just driving one of those things is unbelievable. It's a great experience. And so the technology is what's making it more complex. And so I don't think it's if the grid operators.
So you've got to give something up to lose complexity. You wind up doing it the old way.
You wind up doing it the old way, and that's where the energy transition, the focus on the net zero, is why it's getting more complex. And complexity is good. It's obviously like good from a trading aspect, but it's also good because it brings innovation, and it brings people looking at it another way. Where we met at the dinner, the woman across from me is working on like geothermal. That blows my mind. Like, yeah, the Earth's core has a ton of energy, and I hope it doesn't go anywhere. So we should be able to tap that and get energy out of it. And that's also geothermal also goes to how drilling is getting much more efficient. So the crews of 9 are going down to the crews of 2. What do those 7 people do? Well, if they're good at drilling, send them to geothermal. That'd be great. And so that's where you have those type of things that are getting better and better. I don't think we're going to see another massive nuclear power plant that's like thousands of megawatts. Now there's a whole bunch of people working on these small reactors. That's awesome. And so you get to go have those different type of things. All these are making a cleaner world for our kids, which is, I think, what a lot of us are here for, right? The next generation, the following generation. I don't think that we're going to be in trouble personally in our lifespan, but I'm worried about my son and his kids and et cetera.
I just feel like what you guys are doing also adds to the ability to, not overbuy. Right, to where you don't have somebody turn something on that doesn't need to be turned on.
Exactly.
So it just saves energy. It saves all the things that go along with that as well.
Absolutely, because if you don't buy enough, you turn on like an old oil peak or a mothballed unit that is not supposed to be running. But the number one goal is don't black out. And so, but on the other side, exactly, you're not running base load that is unnecessary if you don't need to. One of the big trades that I know a few clients had, we came in 6,000 megawatts under ERCOT for a forecast, and we were right. And I had somebody be like, there's no way. And I was like, I trust my team. I'll get back to you. Sure enough, they're like, okay, send the contract. I was like, oh, okay. Because they were on a trial basis, and they're like, I did not buy.
Now, I was going to say, did they heed your forecast?
Yeah.
Okay.
And sold. And he's like, yeah, you're right. I would have covered the cost of the forecast for like the next 10 years on a spec trading basis, all in one day. I was like, yeah, exactly. That's why something we started with at the beginning of the pandemic is, I remember we'd moved back to Houston pretty recently, living in apartments overlooking like Spots Park, not too far from your office. And right there on Washington and Allen Parkway. And so we were sitting there, and pandemic had just happened. Everybody's like, what the heck is going on? My wife and I were sitting there, like, I had a good whiskey. She had some rosé. I was like, this is nuts. I got a startup. Thankfully, we just raised our seed round. Like, what is going on here? And so we just sat down, and Tati was like, y'all are smartest. Just bet on yourself. She goes, just give it away for free. And I was like, no, it costs like a few $1,000s to like onboard someone, blah, blah. She's like, just give it away. To this day, we give everyone 2 months free because no one's ever left. Yeah. That's how we got all of our clients. We've got a very large percentage of the Texas market on our platform right now because of these events that keep happening. And because our meteorologist at the end of April was yelling and screaming about early, not hot summer, early summer heat. He said it is going to get hot ASAP. Lo and behold, we're seeing record May. And so he called it. And so everyone who doubted us is now like, well, again, it's on record.
Yeah. Tell us what's
you can
next,
go check.
Right?
Like, if you called this one, you called the other one, you called. Yeah. At some point, we gotta quit. We gotta quit ignoring you. And so that's really what happened. But Tati came up with that idea in I guess, March, April of 2020 and just said, give it away
That's
for
your
free.
wife, yeah.
My wife. And so yeah, Tatiana just said, let's do it. And I was like, huh. So sure enough, we do 2 months free. Anybody, offer goes to anyone listening who has meters. Just let us know and we'll prove you that we can actually beat whatever you're doing internally. And we've never had someone.
Never lost a client. Wow.
Never lost,
great.
like anyone who came in on that premise.
Yeah.
They're here.
How did you guys meet? You mentioned just a dinner. I mean, is there?
Rachel.
Yeah. We had a big, I say big, we had a dinner where we brought together people in Houston focused on energy transition, and Sean knew one of the folks at PEP and came to that dinner.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's, the Houston energy transition community is not big, but it's growing.
It is definitely growing.
It's awesome.
And
I have to say, like, it's easier to look at something when you step away and then come back. And in 2013, there was no like innovation. There was no VC, no anything. And then step away 7 years and come back in 2019. And it was getting off to something. But when you have someone like Greentown Labs, we're in a sister in Brooklyn, New York, called Urban Future Lab. And so I had known who Emily Reichert was a long time ago, 4 years ago.
Greentown Labs.
And who runs Greentown Labs.
I just toured that last week. It's a pretty interesting
It's
place.
awesome. And then the Ion's across the street, and that's awesome. But like the fact that they chose Houston means something is up here, right? And if this is the energy capital of the world, and we're talking about the energy transition, and we're trying to solve climate change at the root of it, a lot of it's energy.
Yeah.
And a lot of the net zero stuff is energy based. So, and all the smart energy people are here. But the thing is that you've got to give those people a shot. And so that's where I think it's great to see there's venture capital popping up all over here. I try to bring my investors here. I introduce them to companies who are here in Houston. I will never not meet with a founder. I met with 3 founders this week, and it's Wednesday.
And you mentioned the
Thursday,
geothermal
Wednesday.
person earlier. Carrie, was that her name? Do you remember the girl that was doing the geothermal?
I'm blanking on her name.
Do you remember? No?
Don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I mentioned that, there's a couple of really talented oil and gas people that left, I don't know, 2 years ago to go do geothermal.
Yeah.
And adding to your point that the community is growing. These are people that were, high risers, fast. They had a track that was taking them anywhere they wanted to go within traditional oil and gas.
Yeah.
And they've moved into geothermal now. I'm sure we'll have them on the podcast at some point, but it's encouraging to hear you talking about to step away, to come back, to see what it's growing. I mean, that's one of the reasons that we're doing this, is to say, look, all of these things have to exist together.
Yeah.
And there's going to be products, services, what you guys are doing, technology that people aren't even thinking that they need.
Yeah.
That's blowing away traditional models and saving energy / money / environment. I mean, the entire spectrum is growing up in Houston right now.
Yeah, but again, we employ numerous people in Houston and going after a lot more. I've got 6 job openings too, 9, sorry. And so with this, I mean, if someone had not given us an early shot, and Notation Capital out of Brooklyn said, hey, these 2 guys just met each other. We knew Abe before. We think they're a good team. They yeah, sure, we'll give them $860,000. Like they led the round, and then we went and raised that from angels on for our pre-seed early 2018, before energy got cool, and so, or electricity specifically got cool.
I was gonna say, I think energy was getting uncool.
It was
I'm not
very
sure it's
uncool
cool
in
yet.
18.
But
It was but electricity started getting cool.
Yes.
And all I know how to do is electricity, which is super helpful
Yeah.
when you want to be cool.
Well, so you're obviously growing quickly in your existing business. You talked about Europe. You're doing Australia. So geographic expansion is one thing you're doing. What about other stuff? You're doing electricity demand forecasting.
Yeah.
Is there other things that your skill sets point you toward over time?
I mean, one of the things that we've started doing is we tell all of our clients what their renewable energy credit situation is. So we tell them what to buy. Each state mandates you buy a certain amount of RECs
renewable energy credits.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they have to buy that. And so we tell them what to buy. People had always kind of, again, set it and forget it, but they're only bullish now. They only go up. And so now we tell our clients for the next 5 years how much they need to be buying based on their current contracts that they have. And so we'll say, hey, this is what you need to be getting. And so we do things.
So you're forecasting their demand, and that's creating a demand for RECs that they have to buy.
So we go through each state's regulatory, keep up with like what tier 1, tier 2, solar, like what credits they need to be buying to offset this. We're looking at, we've looked at if there's an ESG component to this as well, just with the new like SEC strong suggestion. If there's something that we could do based off of that as well. But what we're really like, we want anything that literally has to do with demand. That's what we're focused on. So we're talking to, we have battery companies that are clients. We have demand response companies. Demand response is like essentially providing insurance to the grid so that you promise to back down your factory by X amount. Great, you get paid as an insurer to the grid. So we have clients like that. Obviously, traders, munis and co-ops, retailers. We're talking to a number of electric vehicle like charging companies because got to know what they're going to be charging.
Right.
And so that's why like Riverstone was involved in this round, and they obviously have a big like axe to grind with the number of investments on their private equity side. So we're very happy to be engaged with them and have them on the cap table. And then one of the other things this is a whole rabbit hole that we actually built is we built a data center software. And so all of those crypto miners that Governor Abbott kindly asked to come hang out in Texas, we built a software for them.
Built a software to do what?
So we tell them basically how to be good stewards of the grid we tell them the price, the number that they need to, like they have their number. It's the number everyone always cuffs is $350 a megawatt hour. So if it's below that, it makes sense. I know
for them to mine.
I know crypto crashed recently, so not positive. The 350 is still good. But that was kind of the number, like take that by the hash rate. This is your number. So we will alert them and say, by the way, it's $500. Now it's probably not a good time. Grid could really use you to like be that good steward that you promised to be. There's also something called coincidental peaks in Texas. So you get charged in Texas, commercial businesses, you get charged based on your consumption at the highest, at one 15-minute interval in June, July, August, September. It's not your highest interval, it's the grid's highest interval. So we call that and we tell people, hey, hour ending 17, which is like 4 to 5 p.m. On June 14th, whatever it is, we call that 4 days out and tell them that there's a 90% likelihood it's going to be today. So like, please calm down.
Back off. Yeah,
please back off.
Okay.
So we do that, and then forecasts aren't great because obviously if they push the red button, they will back down their facility from 25 megawatts to like 1. But then what becomes important is settlements. And so this is actually what we got really popular with during the winter storm is settlements. How much are you on the hook for? And so we go backwards, a backcast essentially, and say, hey, this is the number. Oh, you back down to this number? Great. Well, you happen to now be providing power to the grid and you got paid this for it. So we go tell people kind of their P&L. So there's a lot of different factors and functions, and we're always trying to add different things. We schedule for clients. So instead of me saying, hey, great, like your need for this hour is 100 megawatts, I say I'll just tell ERCOT on your behalf, and then I tell ERCOT. So we schedule for clients as well too. So yeah, we continue to iterate on that, but I think one of the things though is, we've raised $10 million to date, but that's not enough to run like 4 companies simultaneously. And I see too many startups think that they're going to be all things to all people, or go down a consulting rabbit hole, or wind up, oh, they're a really big name, I've got to have them, and I'm just going to go be their, like, utilities especially will have you be their data janitor, and it single-handedly sinks the company. I can't even honestly remember a time that the data janitor thing worked out for anyone. It has sank almost every company. And so for us, we're laser focused on we do demand forecasting. Is it the same here as it is in Belgium? Yeah, it's the same thing. You have weather? Great. You have the 25 variables we need? Probably. You have demand? Thankfully, they're written in English. Maybe we'll go to Belgium. So people who are say, oh, well, they asked me to do this, I'll go do this. People will ask you stuff until they're blue in the face. They'll say, oh, this is really annoying. Can you do this? I'm like, no, I do not know like where to buy the best chairs. Yeah. And so then instead, I'm like, this is what we do. That's it. Yeah. So I think one of the things that's really kind of separated us is I always say we want to be everyone's plus one. And so we don't want to be the company that comes in and sells you 10 different solutions. That's the only reason we lose sales, is because we call it a rep in a box. And so they say, well, I want a price forecast, and I want a load forecast, and I want a scheduling, and I need you to do my gas, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. And no, okay. And then they wind up doing that. And to me, the forecast is the most important because that's what keeps your company alive. But people will go do the rep in the box, and then they'll circle back after getting stung. And we've got 4 circle backs right now that just came and said, I can't deal with this. Like, the company that I went with, my apologies. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to keep them as a vendor for another year. But can you come join? I was like, can you come help us out? And so we've got, I think, 4 of those right now that just signed, because they went with the one person who promised to do everything, and you can't do everything well.
No.
I don't have 4 companies. There's a very interesting story of why we don't have 3 different companies.
Yeah.
So we had our first VC pitch, walked in there, great top flight venture capital firm. I said, we're gonna solve the grid problem. We're gonna go forecast demand. And he's like, great. And then with demand, we're gonna go tell everyone what price they should actually be. He's like, great. And then we're gonna go tell the consumer. And he's like, great. He goes, how many businesses do you currently have? And I was like, none of those. And he goes, how much are you asking for? I was like, 500,000. And he goes, so you're gonna go build 3 businesses for 500 grand? And I said, that is the stupidest thing I've ever asked anyone for. And that is why we only do one thing to this day.
Did they invest?
No.
Okay.
They told me I was an idiot, and I told them they were right.
Are you going to go back and get get some money from them this go round? I
need to just tell them thank you, a nice bottle of whiskey
exactly.
or something.
Send them a present. That's great.
I need to look up. I don't remember his name, but I remember the office. I remember everything clear as day, because that just changed. That we're going to do this. We're going to do. How many companies are you going to start?
Got you focused.
3 companies. For how much? $500K. Wait, that doesn't even pay 1 salary per company. Crap.
That's good. That's really good.
Like the ambition, though.
Yeah, that was a good thought.
This has been interesting. You guys have, it feels like you're customer oriented, the greater good oriented. There's greater good for the entire industry. So I like the story's amazing.
Thank you.
You guys are growing. You're adding people.
Yeah.
This is good.
Are you making money? Are you making money yet?
We were break even, and then the investors came and gave us a whole bunch of money, and so they were like, go spend a whole bunch of money. So we were at break even, then took in our Series
Adding
A.
People
and then, we ran the company for 4 years on $2.8 million, which is pretty lean, but we found product market fit. We had that. We had a phenomenal team of 8 or 9 of us. And then they were like, oh my gosh, you've done this with no money. And we're like, yeah, we have. And so now they're like, what if you had money? And so it's actually it's a very big mind switch, switch in your mindset to go start spending money.
Yeah.
And so it's been
and spending money for you guys is
it's people.
Adding people.
Yeah. But every person's
you said
not
you had 9
perfect.
job openings or something.
Yeah, we've got 9. We've got 3 sales, 3 sales, 5 technical, 2 data scientists, 3 data engineers, and then some type of a chief of staff, kind of a CFO, HR, general counsel, somebody who can. We want everybody to wear as many hats as possible.
Yes.
So, but those are, it's been fun. But when you have that as your DNA to just make money, make the customer happy, run it lean. It's a great time when you're about to enter a recession.
Well, you probably businesses that you probably grow during a recession.
Yeah,
as
we
well.
would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're less economy dependent, it seems to me.
Yeah, very much.
yeah.
We're actually like pretty good during the bearish times.
Yeah.
Like COVID,
Yeah,
Uri.
you're
like it actually.
you're saving people money. You got a business that saves
Yeah.
people money
Yeah.
in an increasingly complex market.
Yeah.
Do you
Seems like
have any other questions you want to go to before we get to the lightning round here?
I don't, unless Sean, did we cover everything that you wanted to talk
Let me
about?
let me pump you up here. So Amperon.co.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you said you're big on.
I do a lot of LinkedIn, and then Abe does a lot of Twitter.
Okay, so there can be a lot of the customer or people listening. They can go find information there
For sure.
on your website. Okay, is there anything else that you want to tell us about before we jump off? Well, let me rephrase that. Before we go to the lightning round, excuse me.
I think I rambled on and covered most everything.
It's a great story. It's a really great story.
Fun story.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the espresso right beforehand too helped the train of thought. So
The espresso's not an accident. we know how to work those things.
I like it.
All right, are you ready for this?
Yeah. So the lightning round, the rules are, you don't get to expound on your answer.
Okay.
You just
Not much
say
strong-
one or the
luck.
other, yes or
Not
no, or
my
whatever it
strong
is.
suit.
Yeah. So it's okay. And we have a mix of fun and serious questions. So, as a person who gave up soda 5 years ago, Dr. Pepper or Mountain Dew?
Dr. Pepper. For sure.
Yeah. Cash or crypto?
Cash.
Austin or Denver?
Denver.
Rockets or Knicks?
94 world champions, Rockets.
94 and 95.
Yeah.
But against the Knicks.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
Yeah. Steak or seafood?
Oh man, depends on the day. I'm feeling steak. Having chicken tonight though.
Will the world make net zero by 2050?
Gun to my head, I'm gonna say no.
Oh, wow. For the people listening, you should have seen him. He was biting his tongue to say more. I could tell. Puppies or kittens?
Oh, puppies for sure.
Vegas or Miami Beach?
Miami.
S&P 500 for the rest of 2022. Are you bullish or bearish?
I am bullish. I hope this is over.
Wind or solar?
Solar.
Instagram or WhatsApp?
WhatsApp.
Wrong answer. Instagram's great. Will there be meaningful advances in nuclear before 2030?
Yes.
Shawshank Redemption or The Godfather?
Shawshank, 100%.
Okay.
Will there be a repeat of a Uri-like event between now and 2030?
No.
No.
That makes me feel good.
You think they've learned the lessons?
Yeah. Everybody got fired. This team doesn't want to get fired.
And my go-to question, will the Houston Texans make the Super Bowl in the next decade?
No.
Oh, breaks my heart at the end of a really, really good podcast. Sean Kelly, co-founder and CEO of Amperon, thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate you joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank y'all so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if you're listening to us, you can find us also on YouTube, any of our social media channels from LinkedIn, but we're on every social media platform and every listening platform for podcasts. So thank you very much for subscribing. We just had our biggest month in history and our biggest download weeks. So the audience is growing, Dan. We're doing a great job. And Leslie is
sure.
our other co-host, and just wanted to give her a shout out. The momentum has turned on. So thank you for being our guest. Great
My
time.
pleasure.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thanks.